Hey everyone, just wanted to make a quick video addressing some inaccuracies that have cropped up throughout the history of the Weird and Obscure Stuff series. It's been kicking for nearly a year now, and naturally over time things are going to get patched or changed. On top of that, there's some stuff that I didn't go as in-depth on as I should have, or in a few cases that were just straight up wrong, so in an effort to have a modicum of integrity, I decided to make this video to go back through the series and correct/clarify as many entries as I could. If I missed any, feel free to let me know in the comments, but please check and make sure I didn't already update the pinned comment with the correction. Alright, exposition over. Let's see how wrong I've been. The damage buff from Nyx's Absorb doesn't affect melee weapons. Nyx's Absorb buff now affects melee weapons. Whenever you start a Faux-Rid Assassinate mission, the ship shown in the entry cutscene is an infested Corpus Obelisk. However, the actual mission tile set will always be the Grineer asteroid base. Faux-Rid missions now correctly show an asteroid base when loading into them. Bone Widow's 1 doesn't cost any energy when it misses, but still grants affinity. This also works with Ember's 4, though it still isn't really that good. The Void Spine's ability in the Unairu Focus School can still reflect damage while the player is invincible, namely during shield gating. Void Spines has been removed since the rework with Angels of the Zeramin, so this entry means nothing anymore. Venkra Prime has the unique ability to reach a 13x combo multiplier. However, mods like Weeping Wounds, Blood Rush, and the Gladiator set bonus don't scale with it, so it's basically worthless. The extra combo level actually does boost the damage of Blade Storm and Stat Stick abilities, so it does actually do something. If you play a mission on Phobos and then return to your orbiter, you can still see old Deimos in the distance. The skyboxes for Mars and Phobos have been changed and now show an accurate Deimos. They show an accurate Phobos now too, which is nice, but nothing rotates, which is a little bit off-putting. You can use the tactical menu in Railjack to hack nearby turrets, both interior and exterior. In Corpus missions, you can also use this menu to shut down laser barricades. The laser barricade hacking in Railjack has seemingly been removed, as I remember it when testing for Volume 1, but have never seen the option to since. Maybe I'm just nuts, but at the very least, it is no longer currently in the game as far as I found. Whenever MOAs are spawned on Eris, they'll show up with the name Corpus Walker. Corpus Walkers on Eris also have no shields and can perform shockwave MOA attacks. I know it's shown in the footage, but I should have brought it up in the script too, as the name is really only half of what makes them weird. If you enter Void mode when interacting with an object, you can still Void Dash. This still works since Void Sling's addition and can also be done while capturing targets. Enemies hit by Mag's Pull have a 25% increased chance to drop an energy orb. Enemies killed by Pull had the extra drop chance, not hit. I say had because this function of Pull was removed entirely with Mag's Veilbreaker rework. If you look in a direction and then quickly look down and press melee, you'll perform a ground slam in the direction you were previously looking. This has seemingly been removed, as I tried to do it for like 5 minutes with no luck. The Raging Boar combo in the Rending Crane stance will proc Tenet Exec's special slam effect. Any combo with a slam procs this effect. I'll show the combos and what stance they're in on screen now. You can also occasionally see them when loading into a Railjack mission. The Aura Worm appears when loading into Void Storm missions, not just any Railjack mission. Revenant is immune to the magnetic water present on the plains of Eidolon. Necromechs are too, although that might be a bug. Mechs being immune to the water isn't a bug, because mechs are immune to status effects. I thought they were avoiding some kind of damage, but apparently the water doesn't actually deal any damage, the HUD just acts like it does. This rock in Cetus shows the Digital Extremes logo, and interacting with it rolls the credits for everybody who worked on the Plains of Eidolon update. This button can also be found in Fortuna and the Necrolisk. A lot of people got upset I didn't show the locations for these credit reels, so I'll show them now walking from each spawn to the respective credit button. If you have only a primary equipped, you can carry data masses and power cells while still using the primary. You'll even keep it when you get downed. Both carrying the data mass with a primary and being in down but not out with a primary were patched. By interacting with this Solaris in Fortuna, you can replay the opening cutscene. The cutscene guy is absent from the post-New War Fortuna because there is no joy in that place. You can also press the gear button while hacking to instantly use a cipher. The Cypher instant use key is Y on PC, not the gear button. I had Y bound to gear for so long I didn't even realize it wasn't the default bind. This Y for Cypher bind is also not rebindable, which is really annoying. Enemies can't contest interception points so long as they're caught in either Vauban's Vortex or Nidus's Larva. Enemies also can't contest if picked up by Tornadoes, Strangledome, or Spearstorm. When casting Frost's Snow Globe, enemies that are launched out take true damage when colliding with an object. This means that the damage ignores all of their defenses. The true damage from being launched out of Frost's bubble ignores armor, but does not ignore special types of damage reduction like damage attenuation or the reduction the Nox possesses. Despite Reactive Storm replacing Desert Wind's impact damage with the best damage type for the enemy's health class, Shattering Impact still works while the augment is equipped. Shattering Impact only works on the first hit of a given Serene Storm cast, as Reactive Storm has to collide with a health type to adapt to it, meaning the first hit will always be Impact. It adapts to the strongest damage type for the health class, and no armor is weakest to Impact, so Shattering Impact only works on the very first hit of a given cast. Strangely, the Ranger enemies that appear in Corpus Arcwing missions use 4 Opticores taped together as their jetpack. They're also fucking massive for some reason. The Corpus Rangers, and really everything in Arcwing, isn't actually massive, we're just scaled down, presumably for technical reasons. Oh hey, look who left that correction. Palladino's weekly Riven actually resets 7 days after you purchase a Riven from her, as opposed to the weekly reset that occurs on Sundays. Yeah, this is completely wrong. Palladino actually resets every Wednesday. What?
Such as amendment, rectification, B, rebuke, punishment, C.
My fucking phone interrupted my recording session. Hey Google? Fuck yourself.
I'm a virtual assistant, but your words are still very real.
Palladino actually resets every Wednesday. I was going off info from the wiki at the time, and I just so happened to test it on a Wednesday. Fortunately, there's a timer on Palladino now, so this entry isn't even helpful anymore. Magus Lockdown can link to Kuva Clouds, which both stops them and reveals a floating corrupted Lancer head for the duration of the lockdown. Magus Lockdown on Kuva Clouds doesn't actually stop them, at least not anymore, but the Lancer head is still there. Their strength doesn't go up as they gain mutation stacks though, which kinda sucks. I don't know why I said this. Nidus's strength doesn't go up with mutation, the damage of his 1 does. I'm not sure if that works on the Spectre, but the really weird thing is the fact that he can use his 3 and 4 without needing or consuming mutation stacks. These Corpus Techs in the Ambulus boss fight appear to have a set level of 20. There's also a Scrambus before this fight with a set level, right before the room with the Techs. Saren's Toxic Lash can have its toxin procs triggered by the explosion from acid shells, thermomagnetic shells, and Vulcan Blitz. This Toxic Lash interaction also applies to Obex if you use the Entropy Detonation augment. Eximus units have a built-in 40% damage reduction, and also spawn in at a higher level than regular enemies. On top of this universal DR, Eximus units also have a 50% damage reduction to certain damage types based on their element, which I'll show on screen now. Eximus units now no longer spawn at a higher level than the mission, no longer have any universal damage reduction, and no longer have any damage type specific reduction as of Angels of the Zeraman. When a Hound using the Null Audit precept robs an Energy Leech aura, it actually grants the player energy at a rate of 5 or so per second. Stealing a regular Leech Eximus aura will grant nearby allies lifesteal. Null Audit now uses Leech and Energy Leech auras like enemy Eximus units do, with Leech now healing the player and Energy Leech giving them energy when they hit an enemy. Last thing is that the Sensor Regulator Eximus units only have boosted HP and armor, with no special aura or effect. Sensor Regulator Eximus units do have abilities now, but Warden Eximus units don't. Warden Eximus units also don't have Overguard. Projectiles from the Exodia Contagion Arcane don't consume stacks of Void Strike, so long as the melee itself doesn't collide with an enemy or object. Void Strike has been reworked and doesn't consume charges per hit now, so this no longer applies. Relic buffs to Warframe abilities, being plus 100% to range and strength, can actually be prolonged past the normal buff duration. This was poorly worded. It's actually double modded strength and range, which I should have made more clear. If you mind control a turret on the plains or Kuva Fortress with Nyx, it will teleport around to keep up with you. Turrets no longer teleport to follow Nyx. If you're quick enough, you can use Transference during the startup of the Handshake animation. Because the Drifter uses the same rig as Warframes, you can then give your own frame a handshake, which actually counts for the Nightwave challenge. Handshaking your own frame as the Drifter got stealth patched. If you slide while wearing the Edo Prime chest armor, this weird energy effect will envelop you for a few seconds. This slide effect also applies to the Edo and Prisma Edo chest pieces. Multiple people told me other Edo armor pieces could activate it, but in my testing it shows that just the chest seems to. Upon completing the Easter egg, you can drop down into the Sarlacc's Maw, wherein you encounter a unique enemy variant, the Jugulus Rex. Branching off of this, the Jugulus Rex has the exclusive ability to drop some rare and powerful necromech mods. The damage buff from Mirage's Eclipse ability increases the scanning speed for codex and synthesis scanners. Eclipse no longer boosts scanner speed, but strangely Opera still does. If you cast your 4th ability as Hydroid while in puddle form, they will instead be localized on you as opposed to where you're looking. This should not have been in the series. Somebody suggested it and I just threw it in without realizing it was literally in the description for Hydroids 4. Not wrong, just shouldn't have been here. You can actually find a wide array of leaderboards for various missions and events by going to the pause menu in the Orbiter, then going to Profile, then Leaderboards. You can find weekly ones for various endless missions and minigames, daily ones for K-Drive races, although strangely only for the Valis, and archived event leaderboards. There's also this one labeled Dedicated Servers, but I honestly have no idea what any of this means. The Dedicated Server leaderboard is apparently a Conclave thing. If you click on an element to customize, you'll then be able to choose colors from any palette you own, as well as a special palette called Accessibility. Neat thing is, if you favorite a color from the Accessibility palette, you can use it later for fashion purposes. The colors from Accessibility reset each time you log in if you use them for fashion. I had no idea this was the case when I talked about it, so I'm really sorry to everyone whose hopes I got up. I didn't even think to try and see if they stayed between logins. If you have Friendly Fire enabled in the Orbiter Captura scene, your Sentinel will attack the fashion in your personal quarters. I would wager to guess that this also works in the Vista Suite and the Dorma Zone, but I don't have that unlocked yet. Sentinels do attack fashion in the Vista Suite Captura scene with Friendly Fire enabled. When mining, you can enter your operator to skip the resource splash screen, letting you mine other ores faster. You can also swap weapons, or ideally perform a melee strike to skip this splash screen too. The Brief Respite Aura mod can affect operators, even if it's equipped on your own Warframe. Brief Respite no longer affects operators. Thralls and Hounds can't normally trigger Parazon finisher mods, but can if the animation gets bugged by the enemy being in a weird spot or something. Normal Mercy animations on Thralls and Hounds now activate Parazon mods. If you pick up a Zerium Accolade or Lunaro Ball in a Zeriman mission, you can drop it in the elevator in order to prevent it from despawning. You can then pick it back up and carry it around, though you can't drop it again, so it doesn't seem like you can take it back to your Dorma Zone. You can bring Zerium Accolades back to your Dorma Zone using a pretty simple trick that I'm kinda upset I didn't think of when recording Volume 7. Just enter your operator, pick it up, and transfer back when you want to drop it. I also said you can bring the Lunaro Balls up without ever proving it, so here's footage of that. The first mission you complete after Daily Reset will grant a bonus of double credits. This is called the Daily First Win bonus, and doesn't apply to credit gains that are mission rewards like credit caches and index payouts. Lots of people ask me if this applies to the Profit Takers credits, and unfortunately it doesn't seem to. Chromas 4 does have a chance to double the credits though. During the Gift of the Lotus alerts for 2022, all missions had the Void Skybox regardless of where on the star chart they took place. These missions also dropped Argon Crystals. If you're being healed by Oberon's Renewal but you're already at full health, then you'll be made immune to status effects for as long as your health is full. Okay, 2 things here. First of all, I'm standing on hallowed ground in this clip like a fucking moron. Second, this entry isn't straight up wrong, but is actually way more complex than I first realized. Being at full health with Renewal isn't status immunity proper, but rather a constant status cleanse, as that's what happens when Renewal heals you to full. As such, a lot of weird stuff happens. For instance, Arson Eximus blasts, you won't take the heat proc, but you will fall on your ass. Magnetic procs are weird, as they cause the HUD distortion effect and do take a small amount of energy, but not nearly as much as normal. This is because magnetic procs drain 100 total energy over the course of their duration, which gets cut way short because of the status cleanse. A long-winded tangent, I know, but this was a much deeper rabbit hole than I thought, so I wanted to ensure I was actually accurate this time around. Using Peacemaker as Mesa forces her body to be drawn on screen, so it'll show up on top of anything you might be clipping into, which hurts my brain to be honest. This also happens if you aim down sight, which I knew and I have no idea why I didn't mention it. Ballistica Prime forces deployables spawned by reanimated enemies to stay allied indefinitely, most of the time at least. Enthrall, Mind Control, and the special effect on the Sinoid Heliocore also all work for forcing deployables to stay allied. There's a special cinematic camera in Railjack that can be accessed by holding right control on PC. From what I've been told, the cinematic cam is up on the D-pad for Xbox and left on the D-pad for PlayStation. I've gotten a fuck ton of comments about this, and a lot of them disagree, so I'm just going with the most common D-pad directions mentioned there. Normally when transferring from your operator to your Warframe, there is a brief delay of like half a second or so. A lot of people told me that this transference delay bug was patched with Veilbreaker, and I want to make it clear these are two very different things. This footage is from Veilbreaker. Transference delay was a second or so window when entering your operator or Warframe where you could not switch to the other, and it would just say ability not ready. This is an animation that has to play when going from operator to Warframe only, and it has been skippable by pressing melee since Angels launched, so it's seemingly intentional. Inaros has a hidden passive where all finishers he performs have lifesteal. While not mentioned in-game, Inaros' lifesteal is actually mentioned in his Warframe profile.
While Inaros has no shields, performing finishing kills will restore his health.
If a Riven challenge says you can't use abilities, you can still activate an ability before the challenge pops up and not fail it. Okay, this is a weird one. A lot of people told me that abilities cast in mission are actually fine so long as they're not used on the target, while others said you can use abilities so long as the target hasn't spawned. So I did the challenge again, trying both, and not only was I able to use abilities before and after the target spawned, but I fucking put the target to sleep without failing the challenge. Jury's still out on what the hell is going on here. Once again, keep an eye out in the pinned comment if I ever figure it out, as I only had the one Riven to test with. Kuva and Tenet weapons have the highest mastery requirements in the game, being 15 and 16 respectively. However, you can claim them from your foundry even if you don't hit the requirement, making it essentially meaningless. The only exceptions to this are the Tenet melees, as they're purchased from a vendor and do require you to hit that 16 mastery. Tenet melees are actually MR 14, not 16. Lastly, on DevStream 119, it was said by DE that more lore would be added to Garuda at some point. A lot of people told me not to ask Steve for this as he's working on Soulframe now, but he's the one who made the promise, so I'm holding him accountable. Then again, somebody said I should probably avoid the rabbit hole of things promised on dev streams that never got added, and yeah, I think that's for the best. Alright, that's all the stuff that needed fixing, that I found at least. Once again, if you have any further corrections, please for the love of all that is good check the pinned comment before posting them. If I haven't mentioned the fix in that comment, go ahead and let me know so I can add it. I tried to be as thorough as possible, but I don't doubt some stuff slipped through the cracks. There's like over 500 entries in this series now. Normally I'd tell you to like and subscribe and stuff, but this video was just a highlight reel of me being stupid, so this probably isn't the best place for that. I'd also normally ask you to watch the playlist or join the Discord, but if you're watching this, you've probably seen the other episodes, and if you join the Discord, you'll probably just make fun of me. Which, you know, fair considering the circumstances. Drop by the streams each Sunday if you want, otherwise this has gone on long enough. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all with that pie recipe whenever episode 8 comes out.